This is a bit of a new vein for us. For me, this is I've had a long-term test. I've had two of them. One is the Day-State rifle. The video will already be out about. The other is Hikmicro very kindly lent me a selection of kit to go on top of the Day-State rifle, as well as a Condor spotting, thermal monocular, and a Hikmicro infrared torch. So what we did was chuck them on this rifle, and I have used them a lot. I've had quite a lot of shots through them, and I thought it'd be a good time to sort of break down how I've got on with them, what I've liked, what I've not liked. Again, as with every video we're going to do, we're going to be as transparent as possible. These have been lent to me for free, but they've not paid for a review. No money's changed hands. They've lent me the kit, said, let us know what you think, post about it, and be open and honest. So that is what is going to happen. We will start off small and relatively quick and move into slightly more in-depth stuff. Number one, the infrared torch. Now, one thing that really frustrated me for a while was quite a few influencers decided to tell everyone that the Hic scope is so good, you do not need an infrared torch. What they actually meant was you definitely need an infrared torch, but you need it slightly later in the day than other sort of scopes. So do not sort of assume, I've got the Alpex Lite, I don't need an infrared torch. You definitely do. Hic make this one, and they make the mount that fits on here. I think it's a 30mm tube on there if you want to use other mounts. Hic mount's really nice. It's a quick release, fits really well. One of the issues that I sort of cover in the Day-State review is where the magazine is and how everything mounts up. These two being paired up together was where the magazine sits. You're sort of limited in terms of mounting a scope for comfort, partly because of me being quite big. I want the scope at the back, so I've got the room to fit behind the rifle. And you sort of cast a shadow across the scope using this infrared torch. The other thing for me is you get quite a lot of shuttering with this infrared torch. Essentially, the Alpex is unbelievable for pest control, really short range stuff, when you're not trying to reach out to long yardages, and that's sort of what the torch marries up to. If I were buying these, and if you're watching this planning on buying them, I would buy the Alpex, I'd buy the mount, and I would get a different infrared torch. If you're wanting to shoot in barns or in close quarters, they are perfect, they work really well, but as soon as you're sort of pushing the limits of either bit of kit, really bad shuttering happens, and it just gets a little bit annoying, especially sort of late in the seasons, or there's been a lot of traffic out, a lot of people shooting, a lot of people sort of hammering pest control as the shooting season's gone on. Rabbits especially have started twitching to the infrared, so you want things to be a little bit quicker. There are other infrared torches, we've not tested them, but I know that there are countless options. There are people covering loads of YouTube videos, Facebook stuff about finding the right torch for this scope. In my opinion, it probably isn't this one for what I've been doing. Barn work, like I say, it has been really good. But as soon as you're outside and you're trying to reach out a little bit longer, or if we're using two guns, if I'm using the air rifle for closer quarters stuff and Alex is out with either a rim fire or a 22-250, and I'm like, I'm going to spot and range find through my scope, or we're trying to line stuff up. As soon as I dial mine up, really bad shuttering. It was almost better to use his infrared torch off his scope whilst looking through mine. So it's good at what it's good at, but it's got limitations. They are affordable though, so it sort of balances out. Whilst been talking about the scope, might as well carry on talking about it. It's under 500 grams with a laser rangefinder. I think it goes down to about 3 meters, the rangefinder, out to 1,000. Obviously, on a sub 12 foot-pound air rifle, 1,000 yard or 1,000 meter shots are probably optimistic. maybe pushing the limits a bit, but the scope is rated for rimfires. I know some people who put them on centerfire rifles. It works really well. I've found one of the stupidest things I've done, and it's really basic, is just making sure that the lens cover is not in front of the rangefinder, so don't flip up. I had a little bit of time getting very annoyed at myself, not understanding why the rangefinder wasn't working, and that's because it was ranging to about 0.5 millimeter. So it's sort of limited when you're literally touching it, but found the rangefinder's been really accurate, been really useful, checking it against other rangefinders as well as the one on the thermal monocular, and as you'd expect, it's spot on. One slight thing, like we said, is rabbits have started twitching to the rangefinder or to the laser hitting them. So a quirk of the scope is if the mounts aren't really nice, really perfectly torqued, the rangefinder box goes off the center of the crosshairs. At first, I found it really annoying, but then you realize that it means that you can range sort of a similar distance to what you're trying to shoot, and then dial in so you're not actually causing rabbits to twitch by hitting them with the laser. So it's one, I'd say I would like the rangefinder box to be exactly in the center of the crosshairs, but then it's ended up being quite useful that it's off the center, and that is purely down to essentially using affordable scope mounts. The better scope mounts you've got, if you're getting them torqued, you're making sure everything's perfect, you can bring that rangefinder back in, even down to the making sure everything's level. Any cant within the scope moves that rangefinder box. So it's frustrating until it sort of becomes a bit of a weird benefit. Battery as the thermal monocular, so if you need to swap them out, you've sort of got a battery for this, spare battery, and you can get by. It's meant to do 7 hours, but every time you press that rangefinder, the reality is it sort of sucks all the battery out of it. So you get 7 hours, but maybe not necessarily sort of 7 hours of heavy shooting. It's also with the fact that the scope records. It records on recoil and then sort of buffers either side of it. So yeah, the 7 hour battery life is optimistic. I think technically you get 7 hours, but in actuality, I wouldn't only go out with one battery. It charges by USB-C on the side as well, just a little flap. So you've got an internal battery, external battery, and the both of them are what give you that 7-ish hours. The battery comes off just by unscrewing this, and then on top you've got this top turret that gives you the dial, allows you to zoom in. The button closest to you is your rangefinder. You've got record and menu. I have this in automatic night mode, which is where that sort of question of do you need an infrared torch comes in. Yes, you do, 100%. Anyone who says you doesn't is wrong, and that's fine. People are allowed to be wrong, but yeah, you 100% need an IR torch. However, the day mode on this is really good in that dusky time when other scopes are not doing their job. This is ace. Low light, I would say this really comes into its own. Picture quality is really good. Zooming in as well is spot on. A couple of things we noticed out shooting the other week when we were in the woods and the sun was quite low because we're coming to the end of the shooting season is if the light is behind what you're shooting, essentially you're shooting black and white essentially because the back is so bright and the front ends up really dark. But that's where zooming out, getting reference points and shooting reference points and finding out what you actually want to aim at is a bit better. It works really well, really light, doesn't add a lot of weight to the gun. The ballistics calculator in it, once we realised we had chronoed in meters per second instead of feet per second, is really accurate. You're pretty much putting pellet on pellet. Obviously, good quality air rifle helps that, but anything I've seen these scopes on, once you get the ballistics right, you set the temperatures, the more information you put into the scope, the better job it does, and you're able to stack really tight groups, which for us, where the reality is, if we're pulling a trigger, it is with the view to kill something. You want to make sure you're doing that as quickly and as cleanly and humanely as possible. So that calculation, coupled with a good quality sort of rifle balanced with the right ammunition, is really reassuring, and it's something that I think it's easy to be a bit blasé about, but as people who are killing things to either for crop protection or for food, I think it's important that we show that we're trying to do it as humanely as possible, because why it doesn't matter, it's just dead, doesn't fly anymore. We need to be better and do better. A lot of people said, digital scopes and things like that, oh, you're better off using glass, you're better off doing this, or oh, I've got a chart that I wrote in 1937 on half a beer mat, and that's how I do my calculations. And that's fine, but you also get people shooting deer in the belly with massive calibers because they know it's going to be dead. Whereas what we want to do is shoot humanely, limit meat damage, and make sure that we're using as much technology as possible, coupled with learning fieldcraft and good shooting and everything like that, to make sure we're doing a good job. The same goes, this is a spectacular segue, the same goes for thermal spotters. When I first showed interest in getting a thermal spotter, the first thing I told was, you won't learn any fieldcraft because you've got a spotter. Which is true if you have no interest in learning any fieldcraft, but also what you'll do is be able to see things that you're not able to get close enough to shoot. So for me, using modern technology alongside reading very old books about stalking and hunting seems to be the way everything can progress. So the Condor refers to the shape, 35mm lens, and super comfy, really nice to use. It did have like a side strap on it. I, in all honesty, broke that, taking it in and out of my bag a lot. So one, something to be aware of. Two, not something I miss in any way, because it comes with the neck strap. So whilst you're out foxing, whilst you're out spotting at night, this hangs around my neck, and it means it's always to hand. I know where it is, and you can also carry a rifle, carry sticks. You're essentially hands-free. One thing that I've found has been really useful with this, and I think using Habrocks and things like that in future, is using my shooting sticks as a platform to spot from. And then once you've found what you're looking at, rifle goes on the sticks, and we're in a position where we can sort of save time lining stuff up. The really stupid thing, every now and again, the lens cap will hang down across the laser rangefinder, and it freaks out. It is not a fan of having anything in front of it. That is purely down to being out and about. You're out shooting, you might hold stuff a little bit off, you might be quickly trying to spot. You put something, a finger, a bit of string, the lens cap, anything gets in front of the laser rangefinder, it's going to freak out. It just doesn't read anything. So the first thing I do, if I'm holding the scope is just make sure that's clear. I have been trying to spot with my left hand, left eye, but it is tricky. So at the moment, it's right hand, right eye, especially shooting at night. That sort of night vision burn isn't going to happen because you're looking through the same thing and the same thing in the scope. Zoom on this is on these buttons on top, and then the center button gives you that rangefinder. And yeah, it works. It's really solid. It's comfy, light. I think I'm going to prefer using binoculars just because of as we're moving into learning more about deer, I think it's going to be a lot of time in one place where we can sort of set up, get comfy, find out what's ahead of us, move forward and do the same, and sort of move in those sort of patterns. So I think having something a bit more powerful, a bit more stable will be nicer. iCup is an iCup. It works. It's comfy. One criticism I have is zooming in on this essentially means you're looking at, is that pixel the shape of a thing? And generally it isn't. So really good when it's open, and when you're zoomed all the way out, you can spot out and range to a really long way. But once you start zooming in, it gets pretty pixelated. I think that is a theme across the board at the moment. Whether that's changing this year with various companies, I don't know. You hear rumors of these people have invented a thing that lets you look at space and you can see Neil Armstrong and you can see everything and you can zoom in for 50 miles. Like, maybe it is, but also I think a lot of people forget the second half of being a deer stalker, which is we want to get close to things to make sure we're killing them as efficiently as possible. So being able to spot stuff a long way, range it, and then move in is essentially what I think most of us need. Generally, I will use black hot or white hot. I've found that black hot is good at picking stuff up in cover. It seems to give a bit of a clearer signal, whereas white hot is good if we're in open ground. The picture quality is really good when it's zoomed out, and the rangefinder is spot on with the scope, and everything seems to work well. It is a little bit susceptible with the neck strap to catching this wheel or the fine adjustment and occasionally getting knocked out of focus, but it's not getting knocked a long way out of focus, so it's not a major concern. The other settings on it I don't use. Occasionally flick through Fusion, which is like Technicolor, give myself a headache and then go immediately back to black hot or white hot. So that is it. For me, I think if you're out and about doing pest control or shooting foxes or hares or rabbits up to, you can spot out very clearly up to sort of 300 meters with this, and it's very, very nice to see. But I would say this sort of combination of stuff is going to be perfect for general pest controllers, general use. Hick make a huge range of products that are going to be more suitable to bigger distances or where you need more control and more precision. But for the vast majority of people, definitely airgun shooters, I would say thermal monocular, Alpex scope, this mount, because good mount, and a different infrared torch would be the perfect combination. Or if you see a bundle, there are bundles and sales all the time with these. I think they call it like a blackout bundle. The torch is good, especially with a sub 12 foot-pound air rifle. The combination is really good. But when you start pushing distances, like I say, you get shuttering through the torch, and it is very annoying. But other than that, really amazing bits of kit. Really excited to try and use more stuff off Hick, especially moving forward, getting into deer stalking and really pushing the limits of fieldcraft as well as technology, trying to blend them together and, yeah, do the best job possible. But thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, turn a bell on, do whatever it is you need to do. I am a proper influencer now. And yeah, let's get out in the field and have a good summer.